Welcome to the very first episode of Space Unknown, where we talk about things that should be known. And right here is a ton of books and a lot of medical research papers, and this is exactly how I reversed depression. And if you want to go ahead and start learning about depression, here we start with a research article called The Hidden Mechanics in Depression. If you look up NCBI, it's a medical journal. They talk of apoptosis, which is cellular death, dysfunctional version, neurogenesis, which is the decrease of neuroplasticity in your brain. These two are kind of the same. This is the birth of new brain cells. This is the formation of those brain cells. And your increased immune response from usually consuming very, very unhealthy foods. So we're going to go ahead and start with the main complaints. The off complaints are loss of pleasure, reduced energy, eating and sleep issues, concentration, memory, guilt, low self-esteem, bad future, and suicide. I'm depressed as I write this, excuse that language, but I guarantee you I was, because I've tested this model in and out for a very long time. And here we go. So apoptosis is cellular death, right? Dysfunctional cellular death. If you learn about fasting, you're going to find out that it cleans up beta amyloid plaque. It actually causes a positive version of apoptosis. While you're fasting, you're also generating new brain cells in your memory and learning center. And it's also going to raise your BDNF levels, which is your brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's Miracle-Gro for the brain. The neuronal plasticity is just the formation of brain cells. The increased immune response is the very important part. You've got two methods here. One, pay attention to your gut microbiome, which the gut microbiome is just paying attention to the chemicals that are very, very unhealthy for you, and then also paying attention to the ingredients in foods that are very healthy for you. You think about one ingredient, right? And here's exactly how you would start to re-inoculate your gut microbiome. It's called the 50 brain cell challenge. Every one ingredient inside of a piece of food that you eat is one brain cell. So you have 50 brain cells in a day, and this is where you learn to count your ingredients. What's going to happen is a massive hit to your taste buds because you're not consuming any of these chemicals that modify the taste of your food, so it's not going to be fun. Kale to blueberries. I did not like kale. I liked blueberries, so I would eat 70% blueberries, 30% kale, and eventually just flip the numbers, and now I can eat kale out of the bag. So over here, your options are this. You've got the microbiome health, which is one, and that's a very long process of re-inoculating the gut health, which is extremely important because the serotonin comes from the gut. So re-inoculating microbiome is key. And the second thing you can do is the Wim Hof method, which is a breathing exercise that actually even helps with the immune response inside of the body. So you can choose to do what you want there, but if you learn about fasting, fasting is going to point you in the direction of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor is going to point you in the direction of neurogenesis. One of these will point you somewhere at some point in time, but they're the most valuable ones because that's how we actually grow the brain. So when it comes to learning about the microbiome health, you're going to need to remember the words, mind your gut and keep your mind, because the mind is the actual gut. Your belly is your brain, and that is proven in all of the science, and I guarantee you the more you read, you will believe this conclusion as well. When you're fasting, remember the words, wake up, don't eat, let your glycogen deplete. And what that means is the next thing that we're going to talk about, and here's ketosis, because I've did ketosis for years. But before we jump into ketosis, if you're doing the 50 brain cell challenge, right, you're decreasing the amount of ingredients that you're consuming, you're paying attention to the healthier foods, which we'll go over here. But the big thing is understanding why the microbiome is so important. That gut bacteria is linked to pretty much every neurodegenerative disease known to humans. Unhealthy belly, unhealthy brain. It is much linked, more than you want to believe, more than I wanted to believe that Flamin' Hot Cheetos were part of my depression, and all of the high fructose corn syrups inside of the food. Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They've got your maltodextrin, your dextrose, your sodas have your high fructose corn syrup. You don't want to touch those ever because they're toxic, they'll kill the microbiome, and they're very pro-inflammatory. So we have an insulin response, we have an inflammatory response. We're going to decrease all of these and cause problems with dysfunctional cells dying because we're feeding our gut chemicals, and those chemicals don't work in the gut. So when you re-inoculate the gut microbiome, depression is linked because of the serotonin. If you're not consuming the correct vegetables in your belly, you just can't produce the correct neurotransmitters from your belly, and they communicate to your brain. 95% is in the gut. But everyone takes the SSRI medicine, and the SSRI medicine is just to treat the brain serotonins. It doesn't actually replenish the gut. And if you start learning about the SSRI medicines, you're going to see this word right here, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. you're going to see this word in depression say that it is lower in every single freaking symptom of depression. Lower brain-derived neurotrophic factor, you probably have low concentration, you probably have low memory. These are all connected. So once we reinoculate the gut health, we're going to be able to have more of the things that we need for our brain to function off of. This all comes down into fermented foods with your central nervous system, the allowing of apoptosis in a positive way and the neurogenesis in a good way, the lack of immune issues because you're consuming foods that actually increase your gut health. So all of this starts to add up. And then in time when you're consuming foods, they're actually going to be antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, control your gut. You're going to have a better glycemic controls because if you're fasting, when the fasting, all it's doing is causing something called intermetabolic switching. When you're hungry, it's because your cells can't use ATP anymore and they're trying to use ketones. And 99% of people have the headaches, and that's the B5 with carb-fat conversion to being able to utilize the ketones. And you can get B5, pantotheric acid, inside of salmon, yogurt, lentils, mushrooms, avocados, broccoli, cauliflower, kale. And avocados are amazing because they have the best fiber to dietary fiber ratio, or dietary fiber to, is it potassium? And then it's fiber. And then, I forget what I wrote there. Wow, I wrote this forever ago. Hang on, let me figure that out. I know I wrote this because of fiber and potassium, but I'm not sure what the F and the D means. I wrote this stuff forever ago. And then why? Money? Yeah, of course. So anyways, gut health, reinoculating the gut health, that is exactly where you can begin. So fasting is doing nothing. And then when you decide to eat, all you do is count your chemicals because it's very important. Because I guarantee most people aren't counting their calories. So if you're already not counting your calories, just go ahead and do yourself the favor and just start counting your chemicals. You're going to start eating healthier food across the board. Now for me, what I personally did was eat keto. I ate keto for an entire year, 20 hours a day, and I wouldn't eat for 3 to 5 days at the beginning of every single month. And this is where people get the headache. Okay, if you experience the headache, that's intermetabolic switching right here. Your body's just experiencing low blood sugar, so it's trying to go into ketosis, and it doesn't have any ATP. But when you're fasting, people do the 16-8 splits. You can do that if you want, but ATP is what we're trying to not function on, and here's why. So when you jump into all of the refined carbohydrate foods that actually spike insulin, right, they're always packed with crappy chemicals. Look at a bag of Flamin' Hot Cheetos and flip it over and look on the back. Look at the back of sodas. They're all going to have high fructose corn syrup if they're crappy. So trust me, this is all in the grocery store. So it's not brain safe. Why is that? Because too much blood sugar equal high A1C levels, which is lower cognitive functioning through the BDNF decrease. And this is where people are developing type 2 diabetes. The bigger the belly, the smaller the brain. They are linked across the board. So when you're eating high carbohydrate diets without exercise, you're pretty much growing the belly. And when you eat these, you're not growing the belly, which is allowing for a healthy brain. So you can find all the research you want with ketosis, but I found around 20 grams of carbohydrates are the absolute essential for the brain to function, and that was in a bunch of research papers that I found. You can decide what you want. This is just what I know and I'm teaching. So the headaches, you can easily solve that with the B5. No headaches for you. Stomach ache, it depends on the microbiome health. Trust me, if you reinoculate your gut microbiome health, and then you go over here and you consume all of these foods that have all this horrible stuff in it, in less than a week, you will go back into feeling loss of pleasure, reduced energy, eating and sleep issues, concentration, memory, guilt, low self-esteem, bad future, and suicide, because I guarantee you that I've followed this in and out. I've eaten the garbage. I've done the dumb things. I've did the exact opposite of what is on this wall. Because these are the hidden mechanics of depression. If you make sure that you suffer from all 4 of these and all of these, then there you are. It's exactly how you end up there. The hungry AF is just time, because that means you're flipping and switching through here. The mad and hostile, like guarantee you I was angry at people, same thing. You're experiencing hypoglycemia, low blood sugar levels. Now, we're going to get into the fun stuff here. So, assuming you're following so far, you've maybe learned about fasting, you've introduced yourself to the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, you've introduced yourself to neurogenesis, you've introduced yourself to the microbiome, you've learned about ketosis, you've kind of introduced yourself into a little bit of the area of what some of the ingredients can actually do for you. You're aware of the foods that exist in the lack of dietary fiber area. This is how you do the math. 18 carbs, 2 grams of fiber, 16 carbs. No thank you, unless it's directly after a workout. 3 grams of carbs, 2 grams of fiber, 1 gram of carb, not spiking the blood sugar. So, and the overall thing, ATP, bad for the brain. Fats, good for the brain. And that's proven. There's obviously a Newton. Every action has an opposite reaction. So, right here, I wrote these little things. This is because I've done this in and out. We got this. Just take a few really deep breaths in and out and get ready for some awesome energy to come your way. You have it all. You have all the puzzle pieces. Yeah, cool. So, we've learned about all those things, and now we're moving on to the next set of what's happening. Loss of pleasure and reduced energy. Those two things, mitochondrial functioning, okay? Ketosis boosts your mitochondrial functioning to ×2, and that's where you're switching here. You're switching from ATP to ketones, and now you're functioning on the ketones, which are 2.1 times the mitochondrial energy, because a carbohydrate is 4 calories per 1, and a ketone is 9. So that's 2.1 times the energy source. About that, I had to clear up some room on my phone. So reduced energy and loss of pleasure, those two things right there are usually because our gut microbiome is very unhealthy, so our mind is not in the correct environment to grow new brain cells or form new connections. So obviously we're not going to be pleased with the environment that we're in, and our energy issues are coming from the inability for our mitochondrial cells to function off of the energy appropriately, usually because we're not consuming the healthy food and we're always consuming the food with the chemicals. So 50 brain cell challenge, count your chemicals, not your calories. Pay attention to those because they're very important. So now, eating and sleep issues. These are going to be the same two things that are linked directly right here. And we're going to run down the line because apparently I wrote about this. And this is actually the circadian rhythm, which is a specific sleep-wake cycle. And you've got genes in your body that function off of a clock. You're supposed to sleep at a specific time. You're supposed to wake at a specific time. The schedule is essential for human health. Now, this is a current society. Sleep's disrupted based on lifestyle. People do a 9 to 5 and then they error out on the weekend, drinking alcohol and destroying the gut microbiota community, and they wonder why they have these feelings, because you can't. I guarantee you that I did drink every weekend. So right now in society we have a below average microbiome, which is the high carb sugar diets, which I guarantee you, go to the grocery store and find something that comes out to this math and tell me if it doesn't have some sort of oil inside of it. Any vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, any sort of oil that is low in omega-3, guarantee you'll find that. And then you come over here, you find out that we have an unhealthy microbiome, so it's toxic for us and it's pro-inflammatory. So if we're causing inflammation, our immune response has to go off. If it's toxic for our gut, that means our gut's linked to our brain, so we can't grow new brain cells or form new connections, and cells are dying. So there's your 4. On top of the eating and sleep issues, just to show you that sleep alone is going to help with depression. Eating healthy is going to help with depression. Not even eating at all helps with depression. And exercise is actually the biggest brain-derived nootropic factor increase. More mitochondrial energy inside of your cells and a cleaner, faster functioning brain. They can form and learn things quicker. So it's evolution. Now, sleep, eating issues, good. Concentration and memory. This is the easy part, and I guarantee you this was the hard part, but I guarantee you it's the very easy part. So what you're going to be doing here is, if you want to override consciousness, let's say that you actually have concentration and memory issues, you must learn about the default mode network. This is exactly what is causing you to be so needy to need different things. Meditation, default mode network, 1 hour a day. So what I did was I fasted 20 hours a day every single day for an entire year, wouldn't eat 3 to 5 days at the beginning of every single month. I put aside 1 hour every single day to meditate. Now, when you're on a bad concentration and memory, guilt, low self-esteem, bad future, and suicide, here are how you fix these 6. Okay? Bad future? No. Suicide? Definitely not. Low self-esteem? Taught low self-esteem. Guilt? Taught guilt. Not taught how to concentrate. Not taught memory. The sleep issues and the eating issues are usually from the unhealthy microbiome that you were given. The reduced energy and loss of pleasure are going to come from not being able to really truly just think that you can do more than you're actually currently doing now. So if you genuinely feel these things right here, right now, of a bad future, like get depressed as, Promise you, eat this stuff, don't pay attention to your chemicals, don't meditate, kill the microbiome, eat literally as soon as you wake up and the moment before you go to bed, consume all of the terrible chemicals, don't have a sleep cycle, and you will become depressed very, very quickly because the human mind is not ready to do the things that we do to it. So, meditate, 1 hour. And if you want to really get over this stuff very, very quickly, you're going to set a timer on your phone for 15 minutes and breathe. And why is this? Because over here on the other side of the wall is what I say, wake up, don't eat, let your glycogen deplete, right? When you wake up in the morning, this is going into fasting, right? But here's the key. It's called reality training and setting a timer on your phone, and let me explain that to you. Your brain functions in mainly 4 brain waves, right? They're called habits. Every 15 minutes, you set a timer on your phone, and when that timer goes off, you breathe. We breathe because breathing brings us presence, and presence are the best gift of life. So we're conscious and we're here and we're now and we're able to choose what we're going to do next. Now from this, you're subconscious, because that's where our programs of the bad future, the suicide, the low self-esteem, the guilt, the concentration, the memory, and all of these things are really truly coming from, to where we will go ahead and eat all these chemicals, where we will eat all of the foods in the grocery stores that are filled with ingredients. There is no challenge back to it, because guarantee you it's going to manipulate the brain to make you eat it. So the subconscious mind and the programming rate here is all you do is this. When you sleep at night, you play an affirmation video and you listen to it every single night, and it downloads into your brain. In enough time, I guarantee you, I had none of these. I had bad future, I had no future. Suicide, well, if I disappeared off Earth, no one would care because no one knew me. Low self-esteem, well, those are kind of how you get here. Guilt, well, those are kind of how you get to here, takes you here, that takes you to here. And all of these take you from here. And this is the fun part. When you start losing cells that you need, when you start not generating new brain cells, when you can't form new connections, when your immune response is running amok, when you all of a sudden just lose pleasure in life, that you have no energy to do anything anymore, you're eating crap, you're sleeping like crap, you can't concentrate on anything, your memory is a blur, you're guilty because of all of these things. Even though you might not know these things are happening, you might be guilty because of these 4 things. So your concentration and memory go to poop. Now you're guilty. You get a low self-esteem. You believe in a bad future. And this is what is happening every single day while we're alive, is we're committing suicide to our gut, to our brains, to our ability to grow our brains, to our ability to be individual thinkers because of plasticity and learn in every direction that we want to learn. We're not taking advantage of the cellular plasticity that we have available to us. We're not respecting ourselves because we need to sleep at night. We're not even counting the ingredients or know the actual ingredients that are going into our bodies. And that's the scary part, because kids follow these bodybuilders and they take steroids, which increases the red blood cell count. And that's where people think, eat a bunch of protein because you need it, but you really don't. So solving all of these is no more than listening to affirmation videos and meditating for an hour. This drops your default mode network. This keeps you from running off of your bad programs, and this reprograms your entire consciousness of what you believe in a day and the reality that you actually live in. If you're depressed, it's a reality. It's something that we believe in, and it's a very hard thing to say. But I guarantee you, have a conversation with me. I'll ask you all of these questions about these things. Have you ever tried this? Have you tried fasting for a year? Have you tried eating gut-positive microbiome food for a year? Have you tried keto for a year? Have you tried meditating for a year? Have you listened to your affirmation videos for a year? Have you paid attention to the 50 brain cell challenge for a year? Have you really tried to fully actually only eat foods that had no bad ingredients in them for a whole year? Have you avoided the actual ingredients? Have you paid attention to the actual foods? Which in this case, if you notice, it's just important single ingredient foods, like green tea. Why is green tea at the top of the list? Well, because if you decide to fast, you're going to get hungry, right? You might experience these things. Green tea increases your central nervous system activation, so that's your energy. It also decreases your nutrient absorption, and it decreases your appetite, so it's going to help with the hunger here. There's a lot of things that green tea does, but it's very good. Medium roast black coffee. All I can say about this is that I never drank coffee until I read research. And then it all talked about medium roast having the most antioxidants. Everything in front of you right now is a source from someone who was depressed, from someone who was angry at the world. Where did I write it? I said, it's okay, just breathe. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. Growing up, you control, so be it. It's okay. I was really mad at the whole world, and this I was because this I was taught not. And that's what I wanted to show you here today. It's just kind of what Space Unknown's about. And this is me, just a human being who loves books. Your personality creates your personal reality. Decide if emotions belong in your future. Re-identify with the future. Disconnect from your life, because pure consciousness matter is reality. Yeah. You're the future of this world. It's ours. So can we keep it? And then this goes with, I think yes. We must use food plus science to solve the brain. And I've solved the brain. They say a scale and a solution. I think it was Elon Musk right here. Increase consciousness, advanced knowledge, a scale and solution, and I have a baseline scale increase. So if you're looking for the baseline scale increase to evolve your brain, then you need to get out of the place that causes the de-evolution of your brain, the death of your gut, the scattering of your mind, and so much more. So, as always, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and post them down below here, and we'll have a conversation. And of course, the best ending to every video is a reminder of where I live, in a city where people rev vehicles, while I try to solve depression for the world. Hey, you do you guys, but make sure it's some cool stuff. See you later.